Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempest rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God. Good evening. Let's edify one another this evening, shall we?
Hey, Skyler.
You're right. God is good all the time. That's why, even in amongst our frustrating days, you know what? We can still rejoice and be glad in the day that God has given us. Got to get my CEM shirt up there, you know. It's been a long day for me. Not quite frustrating, but very long and tiring. I had an enjoyable trip. Got to take the first graders down to the science center. Yes, long. But Skylar, there was one set of guys that must have had a very frustrating day. For I was headed down to Des Moines and happened to see them in a very old, like a 60, maybe a 66 station wagon, somewhere right in that area, according to my coworkers. Very old station wagon. Mhm. And the funny thing is I happened to see that exact same station wagon sitting at the corner to the school with both the occupants of the wagon trying to figure out what was going on with the engine. When I got back, some 6 hours later, so I know it wasn't probably not as. It was probably more frustrating for them than probably for you or me. Hey, Maureen, good to see you. And by the time I got ready to leave to come home from after route, the gentlemen were loading that said station wagon, which was loaded with parts for that said station wagon, including a back seat and I don't know. There was a whole bunch of parts in it. Um, onto a trailer to be taken somewhere else. Yep. I'm kind of thinking that's station wagon I happened to see in Dallas Center on my way home from Des Moines Monday. As I'm coming to think, it's like I saw that headed down the interstate. I'm like, that looks familiar. And the more I've been thinking on it, it's like I'm pretty sure I saw that like at Dallas Center or something. Um, so I don't know. They have that guy there in Dallas Center that sells the old cars, and I'm almost certain I saw it there. It was an old green one, and it looked like it had something happened to the top of to the roof of the station wagon, because there was some sort of a gizmo on top of it, like perhaps there was a hole in there, and somebody had put like a coffee table or something on top to prevent rain getting in or something, and had just strapped it along the top. I don't know. Anyway. It had been going down the interstate. It was not going down it any longer. So, no matter what we're going through, there's generally always someone going through something worse than me. When I come through Dallas Center on the way home with Ezra and Alicia on Monday, Um, the guy in Dallas Center that sells the old cars actually had a Ghostbuster um, hearse sitting out there. Yep. I mean, it was the white hearse and it had the Ghostbuster emblem on it. It was nice looking. I go through there, I see those old ones. It's like all they need is a little tender love and care. But I bet you he wants a pretty penny for it. Hey Ezra, he's cooking. Never mind. I don't know if he wants to or not. Are you cooking? Oh. Seeking the lost, yes, kindly entreating wanderers on the mountain astray. Come unto me, his message repeating, words of the Master speaking today. Going afar upon the mountain, bringing the wander back again into the fold of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb for sinners slain. Seeking the lost, yes, pointing to Jesus, souls that are weak and hearts that are sore, leading them forth in ways of salvation, showing the path to life evermore. Going afar upon the mountain, bringing the wander back again into the fold of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb for sinners slain. Thus I would go on missions of mercy, following Christ from day unto day, cheering the faint and raising the fallen, pointing the lost to Jesus the way. Going afar upon the mountain, bringing the wander back again into the fold of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb for sinners slain. So yeah, we got done with the. Hey, Susan, good to see you. We got done with taking the first graders to the science center, and they usually have a blast. They only got the first half of the day there. Which is kind of strange. Usually, when we go down to the science center, they generally get to go there and spend most of the day there. They'll eat there, and then come home. Well, this year they got to go there. We were there about 9 o'clock in the morning, and they ran around, checked things out. There's a dinosaur exhibit going on this month, and got to check things out. And then we left there and headed to a park so they could eat and play. Mom, you'll have to call him and find out what he needs. I'm live, so they'll have to go somewhere else and go to the kitchen. He probably wants Ezra. Um, but usually, by the time we got ready to leave, there was about another 4 or 5 schools there, which is kind of typical. We're in the field trip area time of the year now that we're at the end of the school year instead of, which is really strange for me because you would think that the teachers would stagger their field trips out a little bit better. Uh, huh. um, anyway, but no, it seems like we have a few teachers that they'll do one field trip, their first field trips in the fall of the year, like going to the pumpkin patch, um, that type of thing. But then everybody else hits the hits their field trips right at the end of the year. And it's like, one, if I was teaching, I would have, one at the beginning, one kind of like in the fall of the year, kind of like maybe October-ish area, and then one, say, February to kind of break up the winter. Um, that is, if we only get two of them, because right about now it's springtime. Right about now, I would not have to worry about field trips. I would be going out into like the yard and start looking for things, around the school that and of such nature. Um, rather than worry about field trips and trying to get when everybody else is trying to get their field trips done. But no, they gotta do their field all of them gotta do their field trips right at this tail end of school. I don't know. That's just me. Mm. Some of that's true. I don't fully disagree with you there, Susan, but knowing that the last month of the school year, at least here in Iowa, for these two schools, is principally done with field trips and parties. Field trips and parties. Oh, and testing. Can't leave out the testing. It just is not much of an incentive. Um, I don't mind, and I guess if I'd had my druthers, I would actually have, you've got 4 quarters to your school year. So stagger, put in four field trips. Figure out something that goes with the material that you're studying. I mean, because especially when you're in the elementary grades, you've got plenty of material to cover, plenty of material to synchronize with your field trips. Whether you're going history, you're going kind of a science one, um, you're going with reading or whatever. You can really do a lot of good and keep your children interested and learning and desiring to learn with these little incentives rather than, okay, we're just going to have 1 month of no education with field trips, with parties. And I'm not, I don't want to say that there's absolutely no education on the field trips because, like the science center, the zoo, um, and I do know that sixth grade, and I think There's one other grade that goes up to the I want to say it's fourth grade, goes up to the state park and gets to pal around with the uh, state or the DNR's biologist, um, the one and only on staff. Uh, so they get to go through and deal with life cycles and stuff like that, which is very instructive for them. They get to go on a nature walk. They get to go on like a nature hunt for certain things after they do a bit of classwork with her. Um, but and I've kind of sat in and listened on some of this, and it's been really instructive for them in those regards. But generally speaking, last month, May, there ain't much that goes on. Last 4 weeks of school, it ain't much goes on, but except for the field trips and parties. Yeah, no, I don't doubt that at all. I think that still goes on a lot today, Susan. Um, although maybe not, because there's when you're dealing with students that misbehave, they do have in school suspensions, which you got different varieties that they can different punishments that they can do dole out. You know, we could always go this. Well, in my day, they were all sent to the principal's office, and every one of them got to switch with the board of education on the seat of learning, applied to the seat of knowledge, seat of instruction. Anyway, um, and yes, that was still going on in my day. Hey, Sister T, but nowadays they do in school suspensions. And what that means is if you get an in school suspension, you have to sit in the hallway next to the principal's office and do your schoolwork. Yes. Um, in the upper grades, that also means that is in the junior high anyway. That is involving a either a specific room or a study hall. I don't see a lot of kids being held back from special trips. But then again, I'm not there on a daily basis. So all I know is, those kids that are on my bus, and I do know my troublemakers. And I rarely see my troublemakers that I know are troublemakers in the school as well as in on the bus. I rarely see them getting held back from field trips. Uh, we do see a very rare occasion that they get an in-home um, suspension because the goal of the education system right now is that we have to educate them. And so if we do an in-home suspension, if we send them home, do like a 3-day suspension or 1, 2, or 3 day suspension, um, they're not being educated. What are we going to do? So they have that problem. Uh, although there's been a little bit of a change up now because with COVID hitting, what they learned is, hey, we can do distance learning. Um, and what that means is, um, that if they have a 3-day suspension, for example, a packet of schoolwork gets sent home with them that they have to log in and do schoolwork every day of those 3 days, the 3-day suspension. So there's still a lot of that going on. They're still learning and criteria or benchmarks that still have to be met, even with their suspension. So that's a plus. Um, I think that's one big change that has happened over the last 5 years. It's also something that happens when severe weather happens, so that um, now if we know of uh, severe weather coming in, we can send, the school sends home packets of schoolwork and says, okay, if we have to call off school, here's your schoolwork for tomorrow and or the day after. And if we do call off school, then you are required to log in uh, and take your classes online and do this packet of schoolwork and bring that back to us on the next day of in class instruction. So that, I mean, what that's done is, like, here in the state of Iowa, we have a certain requirement of hours and days. So we have to have, like, what is it, 180? I think it's like 180 days of instruction per school year. Um, and that translates into so many hours. I think it's uh, like 8 hours or 6 to 8 hours of instruction per day. And so dot, 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 dot. It's been a while since I looked into those requirements. Um, so what that does is, what it used to be, if we had to call off school because of the blizzard, then we had to make up those hours lost, and that translated into days added to the end of the school year. So whereas we would get out, say, May 15th, if we had too many days off due to blizzards or snow, weather conditions, that would end up pushing our school into June. Now, because of this, we don't have to. And I think I did say good morning, Sam, but if not, good morning, Sam. Um, Sister T asked, what about uh, homeschool kids? What do they do if they get in trouble? Usually extra chores, Sister T. They still have to complete their coursework. Uh, you can say they get suspended, but there's no such thing as suspended in a homeschool environment. And a lot of that's because, one, most parents tailor their education to their child. And while you have some parents that are very organized in their and disciplined in their approach to schooling, so that there's not much difference in the way that theirs looks versus the way that um, the school looks. They're providing one-on-one instruction during these hours, and when I say that there's not much difference, I mean that they have a set schedule. They get up, they have their class time period from, say, 8:30 until 3:30. The subjects may be different. They definitely have a different bend to them. Some homeschoolers are very much religious. Some are not. Um, you'd think that homeschooling is all, oh well, they're just religious fanatics wanting to educate their children. Um, but no, there's a good mix of homeschoolers that are um, your atheist, or your humanist, or you're just your classic run of the mill um, everyday person that you meet out on the street who doesn't have any sort of um, religious leaning. You might call I guess you call those agnostics. They believe that there is a God, but they don't worship anybody. Um, so I mean, there's a good mix, if you want to call that good. Um, so there's their schooling, their structure is the same as the schools. You get up, you have your breakfast, you are in place and ready to learn from 8:30 until 3:30. Um, then there are those that are um, okay. We're going to have instruction from 8:30 until noon. And we'll have a nap time. We'll have a rest time, and then we'll come back. We'll do a couple more hours in the evening. Um, and there are those who schedule is, we learn whatever the child wants to learn, whatever they're interested in, and we fit their, and we don't have a rigid schedule. So if they want to today learn about butterflies, that's what we're learning about. If they want to tomorrow learn about numbers, that's what we're learning about. If they want, and so they have no schedule. They have, and it's called unschooling. Um, and so there's different types of homeschooling. The important thing to understand is that they tailor their education to the child rather than to the system, and try to force the child into the system. Um, Maureen says you would be a good be a good school teacher. Well, yes and no. I find I have, and this is just me working with my kids. I find I have um, probably less patience for kids that just hem haw around. Um, it's like, I know you know the answer. I just don't have time to wait for you to decide that you want to give me the answer. Uh, but then again, that may be just me the way I treat my kids, because I know my kids are very intelligent, uh, and I know they know the answer. Whereas I seem to be more patient with the kids on the bus because they're not my kids. I don't know. But on the other hand, I do like seeing my kids excel, and I like seeing them learn. I like teaching them. So I do like teaching. Thank you, Sam. Susan says our county has various terrains, so it can be sunny and no snow in one area. There's a blizzard in other areas. So, yeah, we have that kind of situation too. So we have parents complaining that they call the school off for no reason. Matter of fact, that's actually happened up here where the school here, 6 miles, 7 miles from us. they'll call that school off, and we're like, why down there? And, there's nothing going on. Um, Yet it's whiteout conditions up here. When Susan was in school, the county had three divided areas with three high schools, 7 and 8 elementary schools. One area would call a school off while the others had complaints then. No one's ever, and that's true, no one's ever satisfied. Well, that's the thing, Sam. How do you know what a 4-year-old wants to learn? I don't, for me, I didn't start any of my kids at 4. There's no preschool. Every day's a preschool. I waited until they would have entered first grade before I started them on schooling because they didn't need to go to kindergarten. They didn't need to go to preschool. What they need to do that for? Let them be a kid. Let them learn as they wanted. Hey, Dad, what is this? And I'll teach them. Um, so I didn't take them to preschool. I didn't teach them. Take them. I didn't start a preschool or a kindergarten. That's stupid. Um, Preschool and kindergarten were founded primarily as means uh, of daycare. Oh, yeah, they were started under the auspice of, "Oh, we need to get our kids ready for school." And yes, I know the word kindergarten comes from the German meaning garden of kids, but um, it was started under the idea that we need to prep them for school. What do you mean you need to prep them for school? In the early days of education in America, kids learned at home at the feet of one of the elder women in the home. And they learned their letters and reading, and by the horn book, as it was called, especially in the New England area. And basically, that was the letters that were uh, printed on a piece of horn. Yes, bull's horn, as in from a cow. They took the horn. They actually were able to shave it and heat it and steam it, lay it flat out, and they were able to print the letters and alphabet and stuff like that on there, and that was their book. It was called the Horn Book. Look it up. Um, and they would go to dame school, where in an area they would have, they would have the family would have like the grandmother or whatever, the dame, the older elder lady that kind of had rheumatism and stuff in her joints, if you will. She wasn't able to get around much, so she was the one that took care of teaching the youngsters their letters. Now, as they grew older, they would actually then be shunted off into their chores and stuff like that they needed to do to help getting the food ready for and cleaning house, or doing chores outside, with eventually going into working in the fields and helping in various aspects of the family business, etc., etc. Young youngsters would then go to the school, the village school. So they didn't start school until they were into what was known as first grade, not kindergarten. Well, that lasted all the way up until, what was it, the 1960s, 50s, 60s, somewhere right in that neighborhood, maybe even to the 70s. Um, you started having a push to go from the one room schoolhouses unto the conglomerate schoolhouses. The consolidated schools where you went from a rural school district, where you had the rural one room schools every 2 miles, every 4 miles, excuse me, um, and to you had the schools being in a centralized location, towns, for example. Well, once you started going into that push, then you began bringing in uh, these ideas of having finishing school, well, not finishing school, because that was much, much earlier than this. Uh, your one room schoolhouses would go from first grade to eighth grade, after which, if you wanted a higher education, you would then go to either college, way back when, like say during George Washington's day, or you would go to then they went to finishing school. Finishing school would have been the equivalent of our ninth through 12th. Once you were done with finishing school, then you would go on to college, and that came into play probably around the end of the 1800s into the early 19s, and on up until the time we got to the uh, till we got to the consolidated schools. Well, once we got to the consolidated schools, hey, we started having more two family. Both parents began working more outside the home, because especially in the cities, um, things were getting tougher to where you just couldn't make ends meet quite so much. Uh, and it became more vogue that you had that happening. Well, what do you do with the kids? And that's where kindergarten began coming in. You either sent them off off to the babysitters, or, well, we don't want the we can't we don't want to pay for babysitters. How about we just send them to, why don't we just create this kindergarten and send them there to get them ready for school? I'm oversimplifying things. Could be sooner in some states. You're right, Susan. And you're right. Kindergarten was mandatory in the 80s and possibly late 70s. I know that when I went to kindergarten, and my next younger brother and that was at the start of the pre of the kindergarten roundup. So what that was is they were beginning at that time. Daycare was still happening, but preschool was just beginning to come into existence when I was going through kindergarten, going through school, kindergarten through third grade. Uh, because I know that by the time I was headed into third grade, my next younger brother was headed into uh, went to kindergarten roundup, and the kindergarten roundup was you went for a half day. You didn't go for a full day of kindergarten. You went for a half day, and that only lasted for like I don't know, maybe a quarter, maybe a half a year. Um, and then the next year you would go for full, go into full blown kindergarten. But he never made it that far because we started homeschooling after that. Um, so that's kind of a rundown, just a generalized rundown of schooling and some of the differences between homeschooling and the public education. or the general education that we have nowadays, system we have nowadays. Um, but I remember that while with our homeschool education, mom had more of a rigid schedule. We got up, we had our devotion at 8:30, and we had class time up until 11:45, lunch until 1 o'clock. Then we had class time until 3:30, and then we had to do our music practice and homework, any homework we had left over from school, plus our chores and things to do around the farm. From there, all through the rest of the evening. Um, that was that, but mom made sure to take us on field trips throughout the year. I can remember going places like Living History Farms here in Iowa, which is a historical museum that has interpreters, as they call them, people who work there and demonstrate the skills and the jobs and things that were going on at the particular sites within the museum. Um, I've even volunteered there a couple of times. It was fun. I worked in the broom shop, so I know how to make brooms. Uh, my dad and my brother volunteered there in the uh, blacksmith shop, and dad worked as the implement dealer for a while. Um, I think one of them might have even been in the cabinet shop once. But anyway, um, Susan says kindergarten roundup was in the '90s. There, she opened home daycare in '95 and had a couple of kids in roundup. Yeah, ours was in late '80s, like 85, 87, 85, 85. No, would have been 87. What about special ed? And was it ever misplaced or mistaken in some areas, or not at all? That's a totally different topic. Special ed has been one of those ongoing things that has been developing over time and still is not fully formed. It's gotten more and more developed and defined as we go on. There's a lot that still needs to be done for special ed. Um, you have people that are being defined as special ed that probably don't need to be, and you have special ed being, or IEPs as they're called now, individualized education program, um, that are being abused in a lot of ways. Uh, for example, you can't do certain things to people who have an IEP. You can't kick them off the bus, for example. You've got to bend over backwards, even though they're the ones that are causing trouble. There's really nothing wrong with them that um, I hesitate to say this. Uh, there isn't really anything wrong that a little bit of uh, parental discipline wouldn't take care of. But no, instead they choose to define them as special ed or in need of an IEP, and therefore teachers and other students and bus drivers and other staff all have to suffer because this person is now defined as an IEP. Um, Teresa was put into special ed in fifth grade, but got out in 11th because she got her mom to get her out. Amy was special ed um, because of her disability, and she needed it. Not that she was necessarily a slow learner or anything, but she has a disability. Um, so there's been the special ed program at schools has taken a long time to develop fully, and there's still ongoing abuse of the system, as well as more refinement that could possibly be done. It's not perfect, and it never will be because it's done by humans who are not perfect, right? Uh, but that's one of the things about it because you have a system that is designed for maximum integration of students. Um, Basically, cutting all children, saying, "Okay, this is," or should I say, rubber stamping all kids. This is the education system that we have right now, and we've had for quite a while. Even under the one room schoolhouse, there was still rubber stamping that was going on. Okay, this is the system we have. It is the only system. This is the best system, and every child must fit this form. Well, it doesn't always fit because you still have good teachers, you still have bad teachers, and you still have good students, and you still have bad students, and you still have students that fall somewhere in between and need personalized touches, need individual care. The fact of the matter is that no two students are alike. There may be similarities, but no two students are alike. And so no one pattern of an education is going to fit. Case in point, you had the one room schoolhouse system that was going on, and yet you had a genius or an intellect like Thomas Edison who could not function well in that system. And so he kept having problems and he kept getting disciplined by the system. And finally, his mother took him out of it and began teaching him at home. And because of that personalized care that he received from his mother, Thomas Edison was able to thrive, get the education he really needed. And from him, we have such inventions as, the light bulbs and the phonograph and so many other ones. So you can't just simply rubber stamp every child with the same education imprint and say this is it. You have to tailor your system. You have to tailor the education to the child. You cannot tailor the child to the education. Uh, I would refine that just a little bit, Susan. You're absolutely right, but I would refine it just a little bit. Some parents expect the school to be everything to the child so that the parent doesn't have to be. In fact, they expect the school to be that parent, the surrogate parent for that child. Uh, hey, O'Shea, they send their child to school and they don't want to hear anything else. My child is perfect. There is nothing wrong with my child. It must be the teacher that's the problem. Um, And so they want that child taught everything from education to morals to you deal. This is your problem. You deal with it. Um, and then and so they have no interest in being there, and yet they won't ever support the school. Quite frankly, they won't ever support the teachers. They won't support the staff. And like I said, their child is perfect. Well, if your child's so perfect, why are you sending them to school? They obviously, if they're perfect, they don't need any education. Whoops! Did I say that out loud? I love my job. I really do. I just had wonderful news I saw on Facebook. Two of my bus daughters, yes, I just call them bus daughters, um, because when you start riding my bus regularly, you become one of my children, my bus children. Um, you're my kid. Yes, I know you have your own set of parents, but you become one of my bus kids. And two of my bus daughters just received scholarships from was that the FFA, dear? Oh, the Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau gave them uh, both of them $200 scholarships for their education. Um, one of which is going to be a nurse, and the other one is going for education. So I thought that was awesome. Um, I'm ecstatic. I always love it when I see my kids get do well. So I'm like, good on you, girls. Way to go. Um, I've been driving bus for 15 years now. I've had my share of troublemakers, but in all in all, I would not trade one moment of my experience for anything else. I have absolutely found a job in the secular world that I absolutely stark raving love. I love it. And it's a job that I can definitely see myself at for another 15 to 20 years, if the Lord wills. That means I'm going to see a lot of changes, not just in the fact that the kids coming and going, but I'm going to see a lot of societal changes happening. And I kind of look forward to it, and I kind of dread it. But I love my kids on the bus. I love getting to talk to them. we had a we had a family move in this year, this school year, and five kids, various ages from seventh grade all the way down to second grade, or is it third grade? Might be third grade now. And it's taken a while for the youngest to really open up, but now he gets on and he likes to sit behind me he's had a lot of issues, but he sits behind me now, and he'll lean around the seat and go, "Hey, Levi, yeah, what? What's that?" Kind of our thing now. So it's just fun. He gets off the bus, and we high five when I high five all the kids when they get on the bus and when they get off the bus. And so in the evening as he gets off the bus, high five. And, what is that? You know, I had a precious kindergartner get on this evening, and this one rides occasionally. I don't know what's going on in her home. I know she comes from a broken home, but when she moved on to my route, it took a tremendous long time for her to open up. She moved in when she was in preschool, and she barely. I don't know. She may have rode all of 15, maybe 20 times the entire time that she was in preschool. And she's been really hit or miss all this year. But I've got her talking now, chatting with me once in a while. She gets on the bus to sleep and she's bawling her eyes out. What's wrong? She won't talk to me. And it's the next person behind says, Mrs. So and so yelled at her. And so for the next two grades getting on the bus, I'm sitting there holding her because she immediately come up to me and just latched onto me in a big old hug. And so I just sat there and comforted her while she cried into my shoulder. You know you're making a difference in somebody's life. You know it when stuff like that happens. And I know that my job is worth it now just because of that. All 15 years. I could have gone all 15 years without ever knowing. And that one instant of this one child doing that verifies that what I do is important because I was there for that one child. All of us kids are my bus daughters or bus sons, Sam. That's right. Your eyes, Sister T. You never know how much of an impact you're going to make on a person's life. You never know. You really don't. Folks, don't, don't hide the impact that someone has made on your life from these people. If someone has made an impact on your life in a positive way, don't hide it. Let them know before they pass on. Because, it's important to let them know that they're making a difference, that they're doing something. What good is it for everybody to stand around a casket and say, oh, they did this, that, or the other thing? They were such a wonderful person. Yet, 5 days before, that person was the loneliest person, questioning what was going on, questioning why they never had anyone there. No one visited, no one called. What good does it do to stand around the casket and say they were a wonderful person? They made this big impact in my life. That body doesn't care, but you could have made all the difference for one brief shining moment in that person's life who had made such a difference in your life. We live a life full of regrets, oftentimes because our parents or someone special and near and dear to us has passed on and we didn't get to say what we really wanted to say. Stop wasting time. If today is the day of salvation and tomorrow may be too late, that's equally true. For today is the day that you could be the voice that impacts somebody else in a positive way. You could save somebody's life just by telling them how much you love them or how much they have done for you and how appreciative you are. Don't let a day go by if you can help it. There are many people out there that have made big impacts on their community and other people's lives, and yet die lonely and practically forgotten until the day of the funeral. And that is sad. That is sad and heartbreaking. All right. Thank you, Maureen. I hope they do. I'm pretty sure they do, because otherwise they wouldn't come to me, right? I had a case of a kid getting bullied just this week that I have had to refer up to higher, up up the chain of command, and that person was really scared they were going to get in trouble. I said, "No, I got your back. I got your back. Don't worry about it. You're not going to get in trouble." I says, "This other person who was trying to bully you is going to get in trouble." I says, "But," I says, "the principal's going to come talk to you, but that's what he's supposed to do, to carry out this investigation." I says, "Don't, but, I got your back. We got to get this taken care of so it doesn't happen again, buddy." And so he told, this particular kid told me the day, the principal came and talked to me, and he's going to talk to the other person tomorrow. Yeah. Sam, I'm sure that Susan wouldn't take him if that person didn't want to go. And what I think of it is the coworker is just complaining because she doesn't want to. That other coworker doesn't want to take him. See, I agree with Susan. I agree with the supervisor. Sounds like the coworker is up to something. So anyway, we'll definitely be praying for that situation, Sister Susan, as well as the one with Ariel, Sister T. Y'all keep that in your prayer. Those two things in your prayers. My aunt. Um, One of the things that brings us on is, of course, that situation with my little kindergartner. But I wasn't thinking about it when I initially started this. But my aunt, as I think about it now, my aunt just lost her mother Sunday. She lost her brother a while back, as in within the last couple of months, and I think her son-in-law lost his mother or some close relative in between my aunt's brother and my aunt's mother. So it's really hit pretty hard in that family. So just you know keep my aunt and my cousin in your prayers in this very difficult time. But life is never guaranteed the next day. I also was considering, how lonely a lot of people are and are driven to the extreme of committing suicide because they feel as if no one knows, no one cares, no one sees them. And we have so many military personnel that do that. We have so many, like Robin Williams, who did that. If somebody made a big impact in your life, don't wait till they're dead to remember it. Make sure you thank them and let them know. And hopefully, prayerfully, I have edified you through our time together. You've been drawn closer to God. Such an important topic. No one can make a bigger impact than Christ. Amen. We all look forward to that time when we can spend an eternity up there with Him. Just know that each and every one of you are precious to me. The fact that you're here every time that you can be encourages me, makes an impact on me. And I love each and every one of you. So stay strong, stay faithful. That way, whether we wake tomorrow to serve God here on this earth, we're going to be strong, we're going to be faithful, and know that you guys have made an impact on my life. Or whether we wake tomorrow to serve up God up there where we all long to be, know again that you will have made an impact on my life and helped me to be strong and faithful. And I'll have the pleasure, privilege, the honor of seeing you then. God bless your walk with Him. I do love you all. Good night.